Picture this. The sun has just disappeared below the horizon. Within minutes, the world is almost completely dark. No streetlights, no phone flashlight, no television, no electricity. Just the faint glow of a fire and a sky filled with thousands of stars. For almost all of human history, this was normal. But have you ever wondered, what did ancient people actually do after sunset? Did they simply go to bed? Or was there an entirely different world that came alive after dark? The answer is far more fascinating than you might think. Today, darkness barely changes our lives. We work, watch movies, scroll through social media, and stay awake long after midnight. But for ancient people, sunset changed everything. Their evenings weren't controlled by clocks. They were controlled by nature. So let's travel back thousands of years and discover what life was really like after the sun went down. One thing modern people rarely experience is true darkness. Without electric lights, ancient villages and cities became astonishingly dark soon after sunset. The only sources of light were campfires, hearths, oil lamps, torches, or the moon. Even wealthy households couldn't afford to keep many lamps burning throughout the night because lamp oil was valuable. Once you stepped away from the fire, the darkness swallowed almost everything. Imagine walking outside your home and barely being able to see your own hand. For ancient people, that wasn't unusual. It was simply everyday life. That's why most important work was done during daylight, whenever possible. As darkness settled in, something else happened. The fire became the heart of the home. It wasn't just for warmth. It was the living room, the kitchen, and sometimes even the classroom. Families gathered around it to cook their evening meal. They repaired clothes, sharpened tools, wove baskets, spun thread, prepared farming equipment, or planned the next day's work. Children sat quietly while parents and grandparents shared stories, myths, family history, and lessons about life. Long before books were common, these stories were how knowledge survived. Many of the legends that still exist today may have been passed from one generation to another around fires just like these. Now, imagine looking up, not at a sky with a few dozen stars, but thousands. Without the glow of city lights, the night sky was breathtaking. The Milky Way stretched clearly across the heavens. Ancient people became expert observers of the sky. They noticed constellations, tracked the changing phases of the moon, predicted the seasons, and in many cultures, they even used the stars to navigate for civilizations across the world. The night sky wasn't just beautiful, it was a calendar, a compass, a clock, and for many, it was deeply connected to religion and mythology. Every bright star had a story. Every constellation had a meaning. But not every evening was quiet. Many ancient cultures held ceremonies after sunset. Religious rituals, seasonal festivals, music, dancing, community celebrations. In warmer regions, evenings were often much more comfortable than the hot daytime hours. During a bright full moon, people could gather, celebrate, and even travel with far better visibility than on darker nights. So, while the world became quieter after sunset, it certainly didn't come to a complete stop. However, darkness also brought real dangers. Without streetlights, roads became difficult to navigate. A single wrong step could lead to injury. Travelers could lose their way. Wild animals were a genuine threat in many places. And in larger towns and cities, thieves often used the darkness to their advantage. Some ancient civilizations even employed night watchmen to patrol streets and guard important buildings while everyone else slept. It's also easy to understand why so many cultures believed in ghosts, spirits, and mysterious creatures that appeared after dark. When you can't clearly see what's around you, your imagination naturally fills in the blanks. So, did ancient people simply go to bed as soon as the sun disappeared? Not exactly. While they generally slept more than many of us do today, they didn't always fall asleep immediately after sunset. The length of their evenings depended on the season, the weather, moonlight, and whether they could spare valuable lamp oil. During harvests, festivals, weddings, or other important events, people often stayed awake well into the night. Historians also believe that sleep schedules were often more flexible than ours are today. Different cultures followed different routines, and there wasn't one universal pattern. What we do know is that their daily lives were closely synchronized with the natural cycle of daylight and darkness. Then, everything changed. In the late 19th century, electric lighting began transforming homes and cities. For the first time in history, darkness no longer controlled human activity. Factories stayed open later. Shops remained busy after sunset. Entertainment moved deep into the night. Today, many of us spend more time under artificial lights than under natural sunlight. Modern science has found that bright light at night, especially the blue-rich light from phones, tablets, and computers, can delay the release of melatonin, the hormone that helps regulate our sleep. In other words, our bodies are still built for a world where darkness signaled that it was time to slow down and rest. So, what did ancient people actually do after sunset? They gathered around the fire, cooked together, shared stories, passed on knowledge, studied the stars, celebrated their traditions, protected their communities, prepared for tomorrow, and when the time felt right, they fell asleep beneath one of the most spectacular night skies humanity has ever known. For them, darkness wasn't something to avoid. It was simply another part of life. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the ancient world, please take a second to like this video, share it with someone who loves history, and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating stories from the past. And before you go, let me know in the comments, if you had to live for just 1 week without electricity after sunset, what would you miss the most? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.